Awesome. Okay. Good morning, everyone. We've got a couple exciting things to walk through today. Um, kind of planned for today. So we'll walk through custom meeting types and ways that those can be used inside of Slant with prompts and also with automations. I'll walk through a few new automation triggers that we've created that are related to projects, and then kind of a few other newer random integrations and features and things like that we've added recently. Um, as always, feel free to ask any questions. Emma is manning the chat today, so at any point, if you have any questions on any of the features we're discussing, or of course, anything else related to Slant, feel free to drop it into the chat or just unmute yourself and ask the questions. And yeah, we'll get going. I'm sure we'll have some extra time as well at the end to ask some other questions that may have come up. So let me pull up Slant and share my screen, and we'll get going. Awesome. Okay, so first thing we'll walk through custom meeting types. This has been highly requested by our customers, so I think a lot of people will be happy about this one. So um, in meetings previously with the meeting types, kind of our default have been like a client review and check-in meeting, prospect meeting, COI meeting, internal meeting, and other. You now can customize and add as many meeting types as you would like. So inside of settings is where you can customize those meeting types. So if you go to settings and then under data customizations here at the bottom under customization, our settings pages have changed a little bit, which I'll walk through in a moment, but meeting types. And then you can see right now these are the default meeting types that we've had. So just to walk through a little bit, they are assigned these meeting types assigned automatically based on some criteria, but you can now add other custom meeting types and add those tags onto a meeting following the meeting. So for the client review meeting, I'll start there. This tag is added if you have an email associated with a client on the meeting and there is a keyword on the title of the calendar event that matches whatever keyword you've put in your engagement settings. So again, under engagement review title keywords, the default keyword is review. So we look for if there's the word review and a client email on the event. If you add your own keywords, then it will look for whatever those keywords are, and if that's in the title, um, it will mark that as a client review meeting. The other types, so any other type of client meeting, so an event that has a client email on it, will be marked as a client check-in. And then prospect would be any meeting with a prospect's email on it. Uh, Internal would be meetings where the only invitees on the meeting have the same domain as you. So for us, if we had only Slant emails on the meeting, and then COI or partner would be any meetings where someone that's listed under other contacts is, and only other contacts are on that meeting. And then other would be any other meeting that doesn't clearly fit any of those other categories. So these do stay locked. You have to keep them as existing meeting types because they are like hard coded into the way that we organize and code the meetings. But from here, you can add any other additional meeting type. So you'll name the meeting type and then give an AI description for AI to be able to use to like categorize and also just gain more context. Um, like that description is like a default setting we use for creating the meeting notes and other kind of settings that go along with that meeting type. So, common use cases, I know people, for example, like to break out their prospect meetings, for example, into like an introductory meeting and then like a discovery or exploratory. And they might have like a three-part prospect meeting or something like that. And they have a different agenda and different topics that they focus on in each of those meetings, or whatever it may be. You can create those meeting types, add a description. Um, we'll just do a very basic. Um, example. And then once you create the meeting, you can also change the color type here. So when you click on that little colored dot, that's where you can also change the label of that specific meeting. So once you save that, you're able to, of course, like edit it and delete it and move those things around. But this can be used in several different places within Slant. So one is on the meeting page. So again, meetings for the day, it will auto assign a label to it. But you can always come in and come here and change the tag and add whichever tag you need for that meeting. Um, and then these meeting tags do a couple of things. So like the meeting prep, the note taker and the summary and things like that, that is all determined based on the meeting type that you associate with there and also can be used in automation. So under prompts in settings, so if I go to settings and then under customization, we have prompts and then meeting prompts. This is where you can customize the AI output of different meeting types. So I'll give an example. So like meeting preparation, this is the meeting prep and that's inside of Slant and also sent to your email prior to a meeting. It you can click on the specific meeting type. So if I clicked on discovery and I could give it a custom prompt on what to look for that meeting prep. So again, it defaults to whatever you put in that description of the meeting. So it has a little bit of context. But if you wanted to add more details like, hey, this is what we focus on the meeting. So look through what we've talked about these things so that I'm better prepared for the meeting. You can be really specific in that. And again, for any meeting type, you can do that. We do have some default prompts that we have at Surface for things, or you can universally, like we just have some prompts that universally cover meeting types for what information to include. But you can customize that here. And then you can also customize the meeting notes. So this is the AI summarized notes following the meeting. And we tell it how to structure the notes, but again, if you have different ways of structuring it based on different meeting types, I've seen people, for example, request this with different internal meetings, like maybe they have different weekly meetings and they have different topics that they focus on in the meeting and they want those notes organized that way, whatever it might be, you can do that here. And then for the meeting tasks, this is the prompt that we give the AI to suggest or auto-generate those tasks following a meeting. So again, for certain meeting types, if there are actions that you always do following a meeting or never want to include, or whatever it might be, you can be really specific in those prompts that you're giving it. So that is one place where those meeting labels are used. And I will point out as well, like if you don't happen to change the meeting type prior to the meeting, if I go to a completed meeting, let me see if I have, we'll just do this one right here. You can always change the label afterwards. And once you change the label, you can regenerate the AI summary as well following that if you happen to change the label afterwards. So that's one place that can be used. And then another place that the meeting labels can be really helpful is underneath automations. So if I start a new automation here, and let me use some of the triggers that are like meeting related. So meeting reminder is a perfect example. This is triggering some sort of action to happen prior to the start of the meeting. You might have different email outreach or tasks or whatever it might be, depending on the meeting type. So one of the conditions you can add here now is meeting type, and you can select from any of your meeting types. So for your discovery meetings, maybe the day before you send them like an agenda or something like that of what's going to be discussed in the meeting. You can, send an email, have it be automated, include the agenda. You could create a task if you want more oversight. But that's a great way of using those meeting types is to kind of break out those different conditions. You can also do it for anywhere else where it might be relevant. So like meeting completed. if a meeting is completed and it contains a certain meeting type or label, same thing, you can choose what happens in those different instances. You can also do, let me delete this actually, I probably should delete that before. You can also do like branching logic if you want it all to be part of one workflow and have different action items happen depending on the different meeting types. That's meeting types. Lots of fun stuff that can be done there and customization and also just helps with better like organization and segmenting. So when you use the book chat or when you're on the meetings page, you can filter by meeting type. And so if you want to better keep track of like, hey, how many, if you have like a three-step prospecting sequence, like how many of those first meetings that I have, how many of those second meetings that I have, how many of those third meetings that I have, you can help track like how long it's taking you to progress or convert a prospect to a client. Helps with reporting for the book chat. You can say, hey, look specifically at this meeting type, like what are common questions that are being asked. So it just helps with identifying trends and patterns and reporting, and hopefully also getting more customized with your pre and post meeting flows with automations. So I'll pause there for a second. I've been talking for a lot. Any questions on the meeting types so far? And Emma, anything from the chat I can help clarify or call out?
And just one quick one on that last on the automation piece
Yeah.
with the meeting completed. So let's just say I recoded the meeting type and it was completed yesterday. Will that still kick off that automation to say meeting completed that was this type, dot, 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 or it has to be, coded as, client touch point beforehand?
Hmm.
I'm just thinking like if sometimes I go and I'm like, oh, that was actually this kind of meeting, but it was a meeting that already happened in the past.
Yeah, so the trigger is specifically going off of when the meeting is completed, not when like the label is added. So meeting completed refers to like if the note taker joins the meeting, whether that's automatically or manually added or however, once it finishes like processing, so the call ends and it processes and like creates the notes and everything like that, that is technically the trigger that would kick off this specific thing. So if you did recode the meeting type, the meeting is technically already completed and it wouldn't kick off the workflow if that's done afterwards.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions on meeting types or any meeting related workflows? I went through a lot of different things with that. Okay. If you think of anything, just drop it in the chat and Emma can answer it or she can have me pause and answer it.
The other one I had, Hannah,
Yeah.
is I love how there's, this keyword then is a review. Is
Mhm.
there a possibility to say if this keyword, then it's this, if it's this keyword, then just to automate every meeting? Because like our Calendly has like tax planning meeting, Roth conversion meeting, just like a quick call, and that's in the Calendly title. So it'd be, great to say like if in this title meeting create, I guess I could do it through automations and just say if meeting created has this title mapped to, you know, tax planning meeting.
Yeah, that's a good comment. I don't know that we have the keyword specifically built out for that yet. I actually was thinking about this morning. I think it's a good idea. I think there's a couple ways you could kind of get around it, like you're saying. One with an automation, you can have it look at if the title contains a specific keyword in automations and then set up actions from there. And also, I think using that AI description when you describe the meeting, if you give it in the description, I think it would also do a pretty good job of picking it up there. But that's good feedback. I think it is helpful to have those keywords when you have specific names for the labels. Thanks, David. Okay. All right. We'll keep going then. So on the topic of automations, we have a few new automation triggers that I will walk through. So, we have a new section under automations titled Project, and we have three new triggers here that you can trigger actions off of. So, one is when a project is created. One is when a project is completed, and then the other is when a milestone is changed. So when the project moves into a specific milestone. So um, we noticed like there was a lot of people were doing things like simultaneously and in tangent with the projects. And so hopefully this helps with some of those actions. So for example, when a project is created, say it's like um, new client onboarding or something like that, a lot of people either like to create like an opportunity at the same time or send a welcome email with disclosures and welcome brochures or things like that that were they wanted to automate and have happen simultaneously rather than just like tasks that are associated with the project. So that's something you can do. You can say, hey, when a project is created and it's this specific project, then I want X, Y, and Z thing to happen. And so you could have it create an opportunity when a new client's created, have it create an opportunity on the client pipeline. You could send, again, have an email that sends to include your disclosures and any relevant brochures or information that you need to send. If it's task related, you can technically create tasks here. I would probably just include that as an aspect of the project since projects are all task focused. But it's also helpful for like notifying users if you want to tell them when like a certain project is starting or again, confetti, the most fun one if you want to kick off confetti when a project is started or whatever you want to do from that. Um, that's example with a project created, project completed. There were some projects that were related, I guess, to each other that you wanted to automatically kick off. So maybe you have like a pre new client, pre-meeting new client onboarding project, and you have a post-meeting new client onboarding project because there's a lot of tasks, but you don't want to necessarily kick off something until you actually have the meeting and things get done. I've seen that as a very common occurrence. You can say, hey, like when this project is completed, then kick off, starting a new project. Or maybe when the project is completed, you need to notify another team member or someone to go in and update something or to go communicate with the client or whatever that might be. Project completed is another option. And then that third one is when the milestone changes. So specifically when they move from one milestone into the next, you would pick which project that specific milestone movement is happening under. So again, new client onboarding. And I could say when they enter the open and fun accounts milestone or whatever that might be, then I send an internal notification to the team that works with Schwab or whatever that might be. Um, so hopefully that gives you even more customization with projects. Projects combined with automations can be really powerful. So that hopefully helps be able to do some of those actions that we've been hearing feedback from our users. Questions on any of those project automations or triggers? Anything in the chat, Emma? She's giving me a thumbs up. Um, okay, we'll keep going then. So just walking through a couple other random features and then we can open up the time for any other questions or things that would be helpful to go through. But um, let's go into the settings page first. I just want to call out a few changes here. Should be pretty easy to understand how they're segmented, but just in case you're looking for something and can't find it. So before data customizations was getting pretty hefty, we had basically any sort of customization you could do under there. We've broken it out now into two different sections and are trying to make it a little bit easier to manage. So data customization specifically will refer to like places where you can either customize like AI input or output, or like do custom templates or fields or things like that. So this is where the meeting types lives. This is where all of our templates live. So if you want to create task, note, or email templates, this is underneath data customizations. All custom field management and AI custom field filling lives here. Pipelines, if you're doing like company pipelines, because the default will be per book. If you're doing company pipelines and you're an admin and have access to company settings, you'll find that here. And then nudges, I think I mentioned this in a previous webinar, but nudges can now be specifically scoped to certain users or books based on criteria. So any of that data customization will be found here. Again, you'll have like your company settings and then your book level settings. So things that are being done across books on a company level, and then things that you can customize specifically in the book. So that will live all here. And then we pulled out like labels and different things like that into a separate section now for tags and labels. So these different tabs up here will help you navigate to the right section. The default tab is the household tags, which is just tags associated with clients or prospects, and you can manage all of those here and see how they're being used across things. We did add a count to both the data customizations and also to the tags and labels, so you can, for like cleanup, identify, hey, this tag is being used 0 times. I could probably delete it, or once, or whatever it might be, just to manage things better. Business tags would be here, and then task labels, note labels, and opportunity labels are managed here. So again, we've got defaults, but if you edit, add, change any of those labels, then you can do that here under the tags and labels section. So mostly just moved around where everything is. You still have all the same powers. It gives you a little bit more insight too with the count. And then something else I'll bring up while we're in settings here is if you are an admin, under company profile, you now have the ability to lock new notes by default. So Redtail and Wealthbox have different ways of doing things. Wealthbox lets you edit notes. Redtail does not let you edit notes. And some firms just like to have different permissionings on either notes being locked down or having the ability to edit notes afterwards. So as an admin, you now have the ability, if you want, to come in here and lock new notes by default. What this means is when new notes are created, they're locked, meaning that they can't be edited or deleted by someone. We still have the ability, if you don't have this turned in, to manually select notes that need to be locked. But if you do just want to lock everything by default and you don't want other users to be able to edit those, that's a new setting that we added here under company profile. And you'll just toggle that on to turn that on. So I'm going to pause again. Just want to give time for anyone to ask any questions on any of the data customizations, tags, labels, or this new note locking setting, if there are any.
One other template that just came up. We were doing a little bit of book chat and then adding some new projects. Is there a project template? I didn't see it in the data customizations, but there was something in book chat that said, "Oh, if you set up your project template, that dot." And what I mean by that is like, so whenever I create a new project, it already has like certain comments, and maybe it is in there, but I just didn't know where we define that. Is it all in the project, or is that
Hmm.
a template?
Yeah. Technically, we put it is kind of a template, but we put it under project types. So it's just where you would edit your project types, which are kind of project templates. You can make some of those changes. So like, let me go to a project in my book. Like new client onboarding, if I come here, then like obviously you can add the tasks, the outcomes, form inputs, things like that, but there's a few other places, I think it's under project settings. You could add like, actually no, it's under outcomes. When you add an outcome, you can add like default comments when certain outcomes are selected. So you can add the comment here. Or also for like form inputs, if you're doing form fields, you can put like default placeholder text and stuff like that there. So depending on what you were referencing, that may have been what the chat was talking about. But all of like
Gotcha,
the
gotcha.
project templates, anything related to projects is managed under project types.
Under projects. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I just didn't know if there's a separate place within templates. But yeah, that makes sense. I'll just do everything in there. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't like another template
Yeah.
besides this. But this is
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, they are, I mean, they basically are templates, but yeah, we call them project types, but they do have its own settings and we just have you do all project editing in the same place. But you should be able to find that all under project types in customization. Okay. Davey's got all the good questions today. No one else has any questions. Okay. Um, Going on to a couple phone related things I'll just talk through. So we do have a new phone and SMS integration, dial pad. So it's connected to SMS and call history, just like any of our other integrations. You should be able to connect. Is it just a login, Emma? Is that how it works when you click connect dial pad?
Yeah,
Right?
just log in.
Yep. So works very similarly to Ring Central and Current Client. It'll just have you OAuth through your login credentials. I think we've reached out to the people we know of that this affects, but if you do have this software or are still looking at different phone and SMS partners, this is another option that we've added. Um, and then on the note of phone, um, this is a small one, but we've heard people requesting it, talking about it, so I'll just mention it. But you can also add extensions now under phone numbers. So it was a funny thing that we didn't have before. But you now have this little extension box here. So particularly probably for like other contacts, or if you're doing like business phones or work numbers for clients, this is helpful, but you can add extensions now for this as well. So hopefully that helps. Um, and again, good feedback from all of our clients that we wanted to add that. So, okay, that's kind of, I just heard someone talking. Did someone unmute?
Yeah, quick question on the phone
Yeah.
stuff. So we use Current Client, and we were trying to do some book chat, or actually just the client chat on a specific household, and it
Uh-huh.
didn't really seem like the phone transcriptions were coming into that. Is that included in all the client history, or is it not reading that?
Phone transcription does come through. There is a setting, I believe, that current client has to turn on in their settings. I don't think it's on by default. So if you're not seeing it come through, I would reach out to them. I'll try to find, I can't remember exactly what it's called, and Cade might have a little more context because he helps sometimes with that, what it's
Yeah,
called.
we're
But I
seeing them
know.
come through to like the
Uh-huh.
slant. They're in the history of the client, but it
Uh-huh.
just seemed like the chat wasn't picking it up.
Okay, so it does pull in the phone transcript, but you do have to convert it to a meeting type in order for it to be like housed under a meeting type and for it to search it under there. So there should be, anytime there's like a phone transcription, there should be an option to convert it to a meeting if it happens to be more than just like a quick phone call or things like that. We don't like automatically search right now through that texting tab, but if it's converted to a meeting, it should be able to search through the transcription just like it would a regular meeting.
Okay, so if we have a conversation with a client and turns out we're going over a whole lot of stuff, we just want to switch that to a
Yeah.
client review or a client check-in or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
And
good.
that also that helps with meeting types. Something I've heard is people wanting to have like phone calls be a separate label than regular meetings, even if it ends up being long and talking through things. So that's something you could do as well if you still want to keep it separate.
Okay, good
Put it as
idea.
a phone type.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Question. Yeah, thanks, Garrett.
One more thing, Hannah, with that, is there any potential way, and that might obviously this would be a future feature, but to allow phone calls from phone providers such as Current Client to automatically be converted to a meeting with a phone call tag?
Um, that is a great question. I can talk to Trevin a little bit. I don't know specifically like all the plans for future cli or for current client future roadmap. I know there are still some things we do want to build, like with group conversations and things like that that are coming on there. But your preference would just be like all phone calls are marked automatically as like if it's a phone call with a client as a meeting.
Yeah, and it could just be tagged as a phone call, just so we have reference of them. Or even if not that, even a more simple solution would be inside the phone dashboard where you see the messages and the phone calls. Just having Slant make a quick call summary of what the call was about, so we don't have to listen through it um,
Hmm.
to use it there. But I think a meeting would be great. Just if you're
Got it.
reviewing a phone call and saying, "What did a client say here?" You have to then manually convert it to a meeting before you can go
So,
ahead and review it.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good feedback. Let me chat with our team about that. I don't know specifically of any plans. That doesn't mean that they don't exist.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
but yeah, that's helpful to hear though, how you're using it and what you'd like to see. Awesome. Yeah, great. What's the question? Will the Slant MCP be able to see emails in the future? I tried setting it up, but it doesn't seem to have access to everything under a client record, like email history. Yeah, MCP, I might need to refresh my memory a little bit on that because I have an understanding of what some of the stuff that it can access. I will say for sure, like MCP is definitely still in like early stages. We just released it to customer, like before it was like by invite only from Slant team member, and just I think last week we made it completely available to customers. And so there for sure is more that can be done on that front. Let me look a little bit. Who asked this question? Let me just make a note. Yeah, okay. Let me look a little bit more into the MCP because I have an idea of like what we currently can access and can't and why, and also some ideas on future roadmap. But let me dig a little bit into that because I'm still getting used to even all of the nuances of what the MCP can do since it's pretty new. But like for sure, I will say like as Claude progresses, as Slant progresses, as all of the capabilities of LLMs progress, like there's for sure more to be done there. So I would say there's lots of opportunities, and I want to look at that before I promise anything or tell you how it works without fully understanding. So let me look at that. Okay, that is kind of what I had planned in terms of topics to cover today. So if there are any other questions can be related to anything within Slant that I can help answer, or if it's helpful to go through anything, love to answer any of those questions. And again, just go off mute or drop it in the chat and we can address it as well.
I have a quick one.
Sure.
So we were messing around with like on our task page, creating new views and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so obviously the defaults are all tasks, my tasks.
Hmm.
But then we were trying to create a view for each separate employee or advisor.
Hmm.
And so, like on my version, I would create one for my associate advisor.
Hmm.
But then when I created that, I hit save as new view. Um, I was assuming that just would save on my profile, but it's showing up on everybody's profile through our company. Is that not the way that's supposed to work, or?
Yeah, let me show you. So let me open up Slant here. If you're doing it based off of changing the filters, let me just add a filter here. Changing the filters and then doing the saved view, it defaults to like a company view. But if you do it by clicking this plus button, then it will ask you if you want to do book only or company wide. And then if you create the view and then apply the filters to that view, then you can choose if it's book or company wide. So if you do book, anyone that has access to your book when they're inside of your book will see those tabs. If you do company wide, then it will apply across all books.
Okay, okay. Yeah, we did it by pushing the save as over on the side, so that's
Yeah.
a different way of doing it for sure.
Yeah. So I would do it first, create the view first, and then once the view's created, add the filters.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, good question. Awesome. Okay, well, if not, thank you all for joining. We'll post the recording of the webinar for anyone that wants to review, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you guys.